Welcome back to the 7th episode of the Sublime Spotify series, and in this one we're going to make the whole thing work. We won't have any bells and whistles, but we will be able to see the currently playing track name. Alright, also we will discuss dependency management in Sublime, and we will write the HTTP client. So we already wrote a server, and we wrote a component called Spotify, which will hold the server and the client together. Alright, so let's get started. So this is where we left off. Let's see. So we outlined the client, and this is what we will implement today. Remember, all these methods, they return none. Okay. We wrote this component that holds, the server and the client together, and we wrote tests. Okay. By the way, today we're not writing any tests, so yay. All right. So while you were asleep, I did some refactoring. It's nothing major, just a few renames, and I used named parameters here and here, nothing major. Then I added a test for the case where an exception would be thrown by the currently playing track name function, right? So it's a really long name. So if currently playing track name raises an exception, the message should be delegated to the side effect function. So as you can see, the currently playing track name throws an exception with the exception message, and in the end we assert that the what is shown is the except message. Nothing fancy. And then I did some refactoring again. It looks like much, but it's basically just a rename actually of the test. So I just renamed loader variable to manager in all the tests, and I also renamed this throw up function to raise exception. All right. So today we're just gonna jump right into code before we explain anything else. So this is our main component, Sublime Spotify REST. And this is the function that happens when the plugin is loaded, and the plugin is loaded when Sublime starts up. So right over here, we're going to write the following. So we still have this, okay? But we're going to have a function, hold up, that's much better. We're going to have a tiny function here called run main loop. And we will implement it in a second. And at the bottom, we're just going to call it. Okay, run main loop. Okay, and what it will do, it will actually not run the main loop, because today what we're doing, at least in the beginning of the video, and let's see how fast we get through it. Today we just want to see the track once, so we're going to go through the whole authentication, authorization flow, and we want to see the track once, and then I'm going to see if we have enough time. We're also going to run the main loop. Okay, so in here we create the Spotify object. Remember the one that we created last time? Over here, and it needs a side effect. So first of all, it needs to be brought in. So we do this and this and that, and we do that. Okay, and we type it correctly. I'm so excited today that we're gonna make it work finally. It's the 7th video. All right, so now we brought it in, and it needs a side effect, remember? So as of right now, we're not going to display the current track in the title bar. All we're going to do is we're going to print it out, right? So in the console. And over here, we're going to call the function run main loop that doesn't even exist yet. And again, as it just said, it's not actually going to run the main loop. And it will get the settings manager. Remember this one? Okay, settings manager, and somehow I decided that I want to use named parameters. Let's do that. Settings manager. Or you know what? That looks kind of weird. Let's not do that. Let's do that. There you go. Settings manager. And it's settings manager. All right, run main loop. And that's it. So yeah, this is the main file. So because I saved it, it already reloaded it, and it already gives me this message that the Spotify object doesn't have the method run main loop, which is true. So let's go there and edit. So remember that we have this run once function that takes a client and takes a function that would open the web browser, and it takes the get redirect response function, which will do the whole server authentication thing. So in the run main loop function that we're going to write now, all we will to do is a super simple thing. All we're going to do is we're going to create the client. So basically, we're just going to call the run once function. right? Run once, and we're going to say client equals client, and you know what? Let's open the client right here. Client. So remember, it needs a client ID, client secret, and redirect port. So let's give it to it. Okay, so the client ID is going to be settings manager, which I forgot as always. It comes in right here, and it needs self settings manager dot client ID, which we don't have yet. We'll add it in a second, and there will be also be client secret, and it will be called secret. There we go. And there will be the redirect port. Redirect port equals settings. What am I doing? Settings manager dot redirect port. All right. Actually, that's kind of weird. Let's not do that. Let's do that. All right. Looks much better now somehow. All right. So we don't have that. Okay. We don't have that. And actually, let's finish writing the thing. So the send auth to request function is going to be web browser dot open. Simple as that. And web browser is a standard Python API. All we need to do is to bring it in. So let's do it. Import web browser. Boom, done. So this is a function, right, that takes in a parameter and opens the web browser, and the parameter is the URL. So it just opens the browser and points the browser to that URL. So remember how we use it. Let's go down. We just keep passing it to this get redirect response function, and the get redirect response function is also injected. So let's inject it. So get redirect response function is simply server dot get redirect response. Remember that we have a server and we have a client, and actually I completely forgot to bring them in. So let's do that. So from that server, which is, so we're in here and we're using that server. From server import server, and the same thing with the client. All right, client. Okay, so we're sort of done calling that function, but let's trace it back again. So web browser open gets the URL. So we're not calling it here. We're just taking the function and passing it as an argument to run once. Okay, and over here we call get response was this, and get response is server get response, and server get response. Actually, let's save the file. Server get response is this one. Remember the one that we tested? That will it will take this open the web browser thing and give it the URL. So this is where it's actually being called. So the server will be started, then the browser will be opened with the URL, and then we're going to wait for the response, and then we're going to shut down the server once everything is complete. Okay. So as of right now, we have this, but we don't have client ID and client secret. So let's go back to the settings manager and just add it. So right now, I'm not gonna write the whole validation logic. I'm just gonna point straight to it. Just gonna say self return self underscore underscore, and it's called, yeah, basically just copy paste that. Read, and it's a string, and it's called client ID. And let's go here and have a client secret. All right. So remember in the Spotify, hold on, where do I have it? In the authorization code flow, we need to well, actually not only in the authorization code flow, in general, if we create a Spotify app, we need to register an application. So let's do that. And actually, all right, login. Let's do that. Yes, login. And by the way, notice the login screen. This is the same login screen that we will have later. All right, so let's see. All right, there we go. So this is the one that I created the first time I created the app. Create an app. So name, description. Remember, as we discussed in the previous video, and this is not the application that will actually be used by our users. Our users will be forced to use their own applications because we're not allowed to give them this, because these things are private and we're writing it in Python, which is an interpreted language, so they will be able to see the code. This is not what we want, which is why they will just create their own applications. Anyway, so we get the client ID, we get the client secret, and the redirect thing is localhost, colon, and port doesn't really matter. Let's say 1234. You know what, let's say 8080. Let's say 8080. All right, and that's it. Save. Okay, so now all we need to do is we go to sublime-text, and remember the settings file, sublime settings, and it has some key sign value. Actually, let's throw this out. But if we do Command-Shift-P, settings, Spotify settings, it already opens our beloved file here, like that. So we already have the is enabled true. Let's disable it. Refresh interval in seconds. Let's have it 5, but actually right now it doesn't really matter because we're not gonna have the loop, or maybe we will. We'll see. All right, so let's do this twice. So we have the, what is it? It's a string, and hold up. We have the client. This one is the ID, and this one is the secret, and both of them are strings, and we're just copying them over, right? So this is the client ID, just copying over here, and client secret, copy over here, and we don't need a setting for the redirect port because remember in our Spotify settings manager, we're saying, sorry, that's the Sublime settings manager. We're saying that basically if something goes wrong with the redirect port, we're just going to default to 8080, so we don't need to specify it right here. Okay, so now we have all the credentials, and now it's time to write the client. Yeah, and by the way, notice that I added those keys in the user settings file, right? So if I go to the console, Sublime packages, Sublime Spotify REST. If I do git status, see, it doesn't show me. Okay, it shows me actually that the Sublime Spotify Sublime settings changed. But if you see what changed, okay, we added that here. That's all that changed. We just removed that some key, some value, right? And remember this user settings file, it's not tracked because it's not in the plugin folder, it's outside. Okay, this is why we added it there and we did not add it over here. Okay, right. So as of right now, we're sort of done with the whole wiring, right? So let's see. So when the plugin is loaded, we call this run main loop function, and the run main loop function just creates a Spotify object, which gives it as a side effect the print function, and then we call run main loop and give it the settings manager, and the settings manager comes from here, and we already tested that, it already works. And now the Spotify object, it has a run main loop, takes a settings manager, it just calls the run once function. Gives it a client with the client ID, client secret, redirect port. It tells it how to send the OS2 request by opening the web browser, and it tells it how to get the redirect response by starting a server, right? Cool. Okay, so all what's left to do is to write the client. Come on, oh, it's right here. Write the client. Actually, let's put it over here, like that. Okay, close tabs to the right. So again, we have the main thing, we have the Spotify component, and now it calls the client. Okay, so the way it's written right now, we don't actually need to understand how the whole authorization flow works. But once we will actually, after we implement it and after we will use it, we will in parallel go through this. What was it? Not that. This one, authorization code flow. Okay, so once we're going to actually start running it, I will start explaining this and this and this and this and so on. Okay, so for the client, we need to implement those functions, and this is the client that will actually call the Spotify API. For that, we're going to use a library called Spotify. It's over here at Spotify.readthedocs. So Spotify with a P .readthedocs.io. We don't need that. The browser will autocomplete that. Okay, and it's also on GitHub. So if you click on here and just open it in another tab, it's also on GitHub, the same file. Okay, but this one is a bit prettier. So let's click on the installation. And installation says, okay, pip install Spotify or was easy install Spotify. I'm not entirely sure what that is, but I think it's also a package manager for Python. Pip is the most known one. So the problem is that we can't do that because I think I mentioned it already in the previous video. If we do that, then Sublime will not see it because Sublime runs in its own tiny universe. It has its own tiny interpreter of Python. Actually, I'm not sure how tiny it is, but I guess it's tiny because the whole application is only 20 megs, right? Okay, so we can't. So we have basically only two options. This is the first one. You get the source from GitHub or from whatever, and you just include it. This is how a lot of it's an interpreted language anyways, right? So the code has to be there somehow. And there is another option that we will discuss in a second. So we will actually just include it. So we're going to have a folder here called, so there's source, right? And there's tests, and there's some rendering issues. Hold up. There we go. So there's source, there's tests, and we're going to have another one. We're going to have a new folder called lib. Okay, right now it's empty. So what we'll do is we will go to pypy.python.org, and I think that we need that, right? Yeah, so it just redirects to pypy, and this is the Python package index. So basically, whatever you can download with pip, pip just looks it up over here. Okay, so if we go to the search thing and say Spotify, we search for it, and we find it here, Spotify 244, which is presumed to be the latest version. And now we can download it by clicking here, or we can also download it by clicking here. Let's just click that one. You have chosen to open, blah, blah, no save file. Okay, so now Firefox downloads it. Show all downloads. No, that's not what I want. I want to open the containing folder, right? And it's over here. All right, and it's zipped. So we need to extract here. By the way, if you were afraid before of Linux systems, you don't need terminal for everything, right? So you can just unpack here. It's right there. So all we need to do is we need to cut it out. Actually, let's delete that. We don't need the tar. And now we go to Sublime. We go to just here, open containing folder, and we're in source. So we go to lib. We put it in. Close that. We don't need that anymore. Close that. Actually, we don't need that tab anymore. Also don't need that one anymore. Right. So as you can see, if you open lib now, then we have Spotify, and it actually has the docs and a bunch of other things, and we could delete all of that, but why would we? All we will be using today will be two files, the client.py and os2.py. All right. And if you want to use that, we need to bring it in first. The way we bring it in is by our old trick from the tests. So we just copy that, paste it in here, and we need the OS, and we need the sys, and this is not where we want to go. Where we want to go is actually, so let's see, hold on. So we're in source, Spotify client. So first of all, we need to go 2 folders above, right? So we don't want to be in Spotify. We also don't want to be in source. We want to be in Sublime Spotify REST, and from there we're going to descend into lib. Okay, so instead of that, we're going to do that. So this brings us into source, okay, and then slash, and this brings us into the main folder, okay. And now we descend into lib, and we descend into Spotify 2.4.4. And now we can say from Spotify import client, which is this file, client.py. as Spotify client. And we're going to do the same thing for that one, OS2 as Spotify OS2. And this is one way for managing dependencies in Sublime plugins. Here's the problem though. Spotify has its own dependencies, right? So let's go back. Whoops. Let's go back to Spotify. Okay, it doesn't say it here, but it should say it on the main page. Hold up. Here, dependencies. It has a dependency on requests. And request is a very popular Python library for making HTTP requests, right? It's requests, it's called HTTP for humans, and people love it. As you can see, a bunch of contributors, bunch of commits, a bunch of people who watch it who start, like look, 26,000, right? So it's a very popular, very known library in Python for making requests. So the thing is, what do we do now? Do we do the same thing? Do we just download it again? There is a better way. So we go to package control, which is remember the plugin, the package manager for Sublime. Basically, package control can pull it down for us, but it can't do it from pip. So if you go to docs, and there's dependencies, right? And it has examples. So basically, what they do is they take the stuff from pip, they modify it a little bit, and they host it themselves. That's basically what they do. And it turns out that they actually host requests themselves, right? So if we go there, so see, basically they're saying the version 2.18.3 is in the Python index, and this repository has the 2.11.1. So it's not the very, very latest, but we don't need the very latest. And in order to tell package control that you're using the request module in your sublime-text package, create a dependency JSON file in your package root with the following contents. There are two stars in here. One is the Sublime version, and the other one is the platform. So is it Mac OS, or is it Windows, or is it Linux? So this is actually exactly what we're going to do. We're going to create a dependencies JSON file, and we're going to tell it to use requests. Let's copy that. So in our main folder, right, in the main folder, we create a file, we paste that in, we call it dependencies.json. Okay, and hold up, indent lines. And it's an interesting thing. Let's go to preferences, browse packages. Let's see, do we have requests? No, we don't have requests. Actually, let me switch to that. Okay, so we don't have requests. And if I did everything right, if I restart Sublime now, or actually I don't really have to restart Sublime. There is also a command to trigger that. Yeah, so I can do that, satisfy dependencies, or I can just restart Sublime. Satisfy dependencies, and see it says satisfying dependencies. I'm not sure if it did something. Yeah, boom. Look, check at this. Look at that. It's created right now. 1935. It pulled down this request library. Okay, so if we go to Sublime, Spotify, REST, libs, Spotify, let's say client, we see import requests. And now all of a sudden, the package manager made it in such a way that it will work. By the way, we could have done the same thing with Spotify. There is a way to publish packages to package control in such a way that we will be able to pull it down. But honestly, I doubt that so many people are going to benefit from it, from having Spotify in this package manager. So I decided to show you both ways how to do it. One is just to include the source, and the other one is to let the package manager download it. And this has one tiny downside. So usually, if you go to any GitHub page of any Sublime plugin, usually what it says, how do you install it, and they say, okay, there are two ways. One way was the package manager, which is what like 99% of the people do, and the other one is you can just download the source. Well, in our case, download the source only works if you have the package control installed. So even if you're not installing it through package control, you still need to have package control installed just so that it pulls down this request dependency, right? And we will have to mention that in our README file. All right, so let's get back to the client. And now we can actually start implementing those methods. So there will be two types of methods. The half of them is going to be for the OS2 thing, and the other half is going to be to just to get the currently playing track name. So we're going to start with the easier one, which is to actually get the track name. Okay, so it's this one. So it will get a token, and it will make a request to a certain Spotify API and retrieve the track. Okay, so as of right now, it returns none, and we should change that. We should return currently playing track name that we will implement over here, which will get a track. Right? It will basically return something, right? Return, the title, right? It's whatever, the title. Okay. So we're just gonna call this one over here, and we're going to give it the track is going to be self get current track token. So this one gets a name out of the track, and this one gets a track. Okay, so let's get the track, get current track self token, and just returns self get token, and this will be the web API URL. Okay, we're gonna add it later. Okay, and get is also ours. It's a function that will get a token, and we'll get the URL, and it will return Spotify client, which is that one. Spotify client dot Spotify authorization equals token, and it also has a method called get with one underscore and gets the URL. All right, and over here we just need to extract the title. So over here we're just going to say track, and this will be a JSON, and it will have an item, and it will have a name, and also we're going to do this: if track is playing, return that, else return empty string. All right, and that's it. We're basically done here. Okay, so let's actually look at this whole JSON and look at the web API URL. So if you go to Spotify, Spotify developer, do I have it somewhere here? Right, so that's the main page, and we go here, and we have endpoint reference. So we go here, and these are all the calls that we can make. And if we go to currently, so we'll look for currently, there's this one. All right, so this is the endpoint, so we can already copy paste it. Right here. So we're going to call api.spotify.com version 1 me player currently playing. And this is what will come back. This huge JSON will come back. And as you can see, it has this is playing thing, right, which is a Boolean, true or false. And this is what we're doing here. So the track comes back from the call. We have it here. We're just extracting the JSON. Is it playing? And then we're looking for item and then the name. So the item is this, and it has an album, it has artists, it has available markets, duration, whatever. We're looking for name. So, and this is the name of the song, right? That's all. And what we also need to do is during the authorization, it should say somewhere here which permissions we need. Valid access. There we go. So the access token must have the user read currently playing and or user read playback state scope authorized in order to read information. So we're actually going to have that one. Let's because I played with this one and it worked. I tried with this one and it worked. Let's just have it just somewhere here so we don't forget it. Okay. So basically we're done with that part, with actually getting the current track. Now let's do the authentication part. So remember I said that we're not going to do most of the things ourselves. Spotify is going to do it for us. So this client is just a wrapper for that client. So basically whenever this guy gets constructed, it will also construct this one. Whoops. Spotify Oauth2 dot Spotify Oauth. All right, and the A is capital. There we go. All right, so notice this one is with a P because we call it like this here with a P, and this one is called Spotify Oauth. And by the way, in Sublime, I think the default setting is F12. I rebind it to Control B, but if I mark this one, for example, I press Control B, it jumps, look, into oauth2.py. All right, so you can see here, it jumps into lib Spotify oauth2.py. So we're in this file now, and this is the object. You know, this is this is what it does. You see all the code. This is you know, one of the benefits of interpreted languages. All right, so we're going to create this one, and actually let's go back and see, this is the constructor. This is all the stuff that it needs, right? Let's format it a little. Right, so it gets all of this stuff. It gets the client ID, client secret, redirect URI, state, scope. Scope is the permission thing, right? That one. This is the scope. Okay. Cache path and process. All right, so let's do this. So we give it all the good stuff. So we give it the client ID, right? And we give it the client secret, and the redirect URI, we have to build it, right? So it's http://localhost : plus the string version of the redirect port, right? Remember this, we set it up in our app. Where's our app? It's this one, localhost and the port. Okay, so let's go back. What it also needs is the scope, and we already have it right here. It's just a string. And I believe if you need multiple ones, you can pass it in with commas. You can always consult what it's going to do with it. So if you double click on scope, there we go. Scope. Here, normalize scope. So it splits them by spaces, right? So if you need multiple ones, you just use spaces. Okay. Actually, let me revert the changes over here, like that. All right. So if we needed multiple, you would just have a space here and just pass in the next one. Okay. But we need only one. All right. And we need the cache path. And the cache path is going to be, let's just copy paste that, put it in here, and we're just going to call it, we're just going to put it in the main folder, remember. So again, this one goes to source, and this one goes to source, this one goes to Sublime Spotify REST, and then over there we're just going to call the file cached token. And in not broken token. And in Linux systems, all the files that are starting with a dot, they're hidden, right? So that's why we call it this. And by the way, if we already do that, this is where the token will be cached. We need to add it to our gitignore file, which is here. We're just gonna have a section at the bottom. It's gonna say misc dot cached token, and that's it. So now if you see here git status, right, it shows all of these changes. But if you create a file called cached token, so see the file is okay, it's hidden, so there we go, cached token, right? But if we do git status, we don't see it. Okay, and that's what we want, right? We don't want to commit our token to GitHub, right? Because it's open source. So let's remove the cache token file. All right. Okay. So again, we give it the client ID, client secret. We give it the redirect your URI, which is redirect port plus localhost, and the other way around, localhost plus redirect port. We'll give it the scope, user read currently playing, and we tell it where to cache the token. Actually, you know what? During the development of the plugin, I was moving things around. I wasn't sure if I should have a Spotify folder or not, so I decided to not to copy paste that. So I decided to have a variable right here at the top called relative root directory. Have it like that. With a slash, but it doesn't actually matter if there's going to be a slash or not, because no, it actually does matter because we concatenate it ourselves over here. So the right way would be to say, you know, Oauth pass join, but since we have the control over slashes here, we can just do that, right? So this one ends with a slash, and this one doesn't start with a slash, because this is what the join function would do, right? It would just figure out, hey, do I need a slash or not? Okay, and the same thing down here, right? So that and that, right? Plus cached token, and now it's even more visible. You know, this is a file, this is a directory. Okay. All right. So all that's left to do is to implement get cache token and get fresh token. Get OS2 URL is actually kind of boring because all it's doing is just redirects it to OS2, right, which is that one, and the one that we just created, and it also has a function called get authorize URL. Right, that's it. So now we're gonna have get cache token and get fresh token. So the token itself, we just, again, you know, Spotify is doing most of the things for us. Is OS2 dot get cache. It's actually called exactly the same, get cache token. The thing is, it will give us a JSON with the token, with the expiration date, with the refresh token, and all the other stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to extract it first, right? So we're going to call a method called extracted token, and we're creating it because we're going to have to call it twice. Right, because it doesn't matter if you're getting a cache token or we're getting a fresh token, both of the times it's going to be JSON, or both of the times we're going to have to extract it. Okay, and it looks like that. Def, self, token response, right over here, and all it is doing is check if it's, you know, if it's null, if it's none, sorry, token response. So if everything goes well, we just return token response access underscore token. And you know what? Let's also just print it out. Let's print token response just so we can see it. And otherwise, just return none. Okay, because I don't want it to just throw an exception. Okay, so all right. Also, because remember our Spotify main component, it will call get cache token over here. Where does it do that? Get cache token, right? And it calls that, and this one is doing exactly that. So it says, hey, if this thing returns a none, then I'm going to do the fallback, and the fallback would be, you know, do the whole authentication request. It's not, you know, the best design to do it was a null object, but it's also not, but it's a bit better than, you know, throwing exceptions, right? Because if we just try to do that, and that would be none, and it would throw an exception, and then over there we need to handle it. So using exceptions for control flow is not ideal. Technically, using none is also not ideal, but, you know, whatever. It's good enough for our purposes. All right, so this was actually get cache token, and for the fresh token, we're going to do the same thing, right? But we don't have a token here yet, right? So over here, we had a token. Over here, we have the redirect response. So before we we can't just put the redirect response over here. We need to extract it first. And there's a helper again in the Spotify library, which is freaking awesome. It's called, first of all, we get the access token. Right. And we get it by calling parse response code, and we give it the redirect. It's an F redirect response. Okay, so this one just calls get cache token, and this one calls get access token, but it doesn't give it the redirect response directly, because remember, the redirect response is going to look something like that. It's going to be http://localhost 8080 and then I don't know, code equals and then the actual code. Right? So what this method will do is it will extract the actual code. Right? And honestly, I believe that we're actually done. Let's see if it works. Let's see what happens. I'm actually excited. Actually, something happened. What we don't see is that in another workspace, I have Firefox open, and it didn't do anything. What's happening? And it also didn't open the console. There we go. Client line 58. What it would do? Line 58. Oh, we forgot the def. Right. Okay. You know what? Let me close Firefox because I wanted to. Yeah. Well, we already remembered to save your changes. Okay. Stand page. Hold on. We saved everything, right? Oh, we didn't. Hold on. We need to do localhost 8080. We need to click the add button. All right. So see, now it's here. All right. Save, and please let me close it now. All right. It's closed. All right. So let's start Sublime. And again, it didn't do anything, and I usually prefer to have it over here. All right, so what's the next one? Line 59. What again? If track is playing. That's a Python thing. If I got a call in here, and if I got a call in here, let's see what else. Should be fine. All right. Okay, 51. What does it say? Global name token response is not defined. All right, that means there's a typo somewhere. Line 51. Token response. Typo and over here. Response. Token response. Token response. All right. Invalid client. That's interesting. What the hell is invalid client? Whoa. Oh, right. This is one of those things. Remember, the server is blocking, right? So if something goes wrong, the server is blocking. So we could just kill Sublime now, or let it just wait for 1 minute. And remember, we have the circuit breaker exactly for that. So let's just leave it right here. Sublime recovered. It sent a request to itself, and because right now we're not running in a loop, it didn't open another tab. So it's cool that we have the circuit breaker, and it worked. It says here, couldn't get authorization token from Spotify. Another tab should have opened in your browser for you to try to log in again. Please restart Sublime if the tab did not open. Right. So well, what did we want to do? We wanted to go to settings, Spotify settings. Let's see if we don't have some typos here. Spotify asks string. Oh, it's called is client ID is client secret because a copy paste. It's a typical copy paste error, right? So it should be called like that: client ID client secret. All right. Much better. All right, so technically we have only 60 seconds to do that. Remember our circuit breaker? But let's ignore it for a second. So let's go to Spotify developer again. Developer.spotify.com, and we go to Web API, authorization guide, and let's walk through that thing. So the yellow part is our application. This is our plugin. This is everything we will need to do in our plugin, and most of it Spotify is doing for us. The green one is the Spotify account service. So this is a server that sits somewhere in Spotify and accepts requests. And this is what the user will do. And this is what's happening right now. So the first thing that happened in our code is we realized that there is no cache token. I can't show it to you right now. So basically we started a server. And we opened the browser, we pointed it to a specific URL, Spotify did it for us, and therefore the Spotify service displays scopes and prompts user to log in if required. So, and then the user logs in. All right, well, let's try. Actually, probably it's already too late, right? It's already too late, so it is already going to, the server already died because the circuit breaker already sent a response. Okay, so let's close this one now, and let's just restart Sublime. Okay, so let's log in, and this is a typical login screen. And again, this is a regular user account. This is not some developer account. Okay, and now it shows connect name, and this is how we called our application. You remember? So if we go to developer.spotify.com, yeah, whatever. Oh, just open that one. Okay, so my apps. All right. So this is what it shows. The name, right? Connect name to your Spotify account, and it shows a description. Remember, description. That one. Name will be able to receive this Spotify account data, and as you can see, it only redirects to account. I'm showing this my finger. It redirects to accounts.spotify.com, and it's not helpful actually. Like usually those things, they display exactly which permissions are given. Remember, we wanted to have this, what was it called, read currently playing track or something, so it should be usually shown here. Okay, let's see if we still have time. No, we don't, so it died again. All right, last time. Actually, let's go to the flow. Yeah, so once this happens, Spotify will request the access and refresh token, and it will the server will return the access and refresh token. Spotify will put it in this file, right? And that's it. Okay, so let's do it for the last time. We started, a page opens. We're already logged in, so the browser knows our session. So we're gonna say, okay, fine. And it says authorization success. You may close this tab now. Okay, so what will happen now is, actually first let's inspect a few things. In the console, we should see our, remember this print, token response. I want to see it. Token response is not defined. Are you serious? I tapped it wrong again. Come on. All right, finally. So see, this is a regular JSON. Access token, this is our token, which is, secret. And then it has expires at, and it has, by the way, this is why we got the access token, right? From this JSON, we extracted the access token, right? That key. And it expires in, it has a refresh token, which is a good point. So if we go back to the, to that thing. So over time, our token will expire, and then Spotify will automatically request a refresh token, and it will get it, and it will replace the cache token with a new token, and the whole thing is just going to keep working. Okay. All right. So this is the thing, and also if we have it here, cat into cache token, we see the same thing. This is a JSON. This is right now in the .cache token. This is why if we restart Sublime now, everything still works. In fact, let me do this. Let me open Spotify web, play spotify.com. Where's the login? I already have a login. It's so tiny. All right, login, same thing. I'm not a robot yet. All right. You must enable DRM to play some audio, blah, blah, blah. Enable DRM, whatever that means. Firefox is installing. Oh, Jesus. All right. Anyway, let's just press play and let's hope that it works. Right, it's playing. Okay, so now if we restart Sublime, there we go. Have a Nice Day, which is a song that we're playing. Isn't that amazing? We did it. All right. So before we leave, let's actually write this loop so that we can play around with it, and then we'll actually remove the token a few times and go through this login thing again. All right. So all we need to do here, over here, where we're running the main loop. First, we're going to rename that one because there will be another one called run main loop. It will be over here that will actually do the loop, and this one will be called side effect current track name or empty. Okay, and what it will do is first it will say if settings manager is disabled, then self side effect an empty string. I forgot a colon again. What's happening? And else do that thing. I figured if you're already doing that, we might as well do this. All right. So and run main loop is just going to call it. So first we're going to have a try except everything, anything. So if anything goes wrong, because this is the main loop, right? We don't want anything to go wrong, but if it does go wrong, we're just going to side effect the message and we're just going to try again. Okay. And in any case, we're going to have a finally. Okay. So in the finally, we're going to have a timer. Let's not forget to import it, and it's from threading. We already did that in the server, remember? From threading, import timer. Okay. And the timer is going to get the settings manager dot refresh interval in seconds, which is currently 5 seconds, and it will get the function to execute, which will be called keep looping. And let's not forget to start it. Okay, and keep looping is just going to be defined over here. All right. All it's doing is it's adapting the signature of that, because this guy wants a settings manager, but the timer wants a function that doesn't want anything. Okay, so all that it will do is it will call self run, not once, run main loop with a settings manager. Oh man, 3 T's. Why do I always do that? Right? Okay, so basically keep looping is just adapting the signature, right? So it's, keep looping is the same as calling run main loop. Okay, and in the try we're just gonna call this one with the settings manager, and we're done. We have the main loop, right? So it's not an actual loop, there's no while or anything. Okay, so this is how you do long polling loops in any language, actually. In most languages, all languages have some sort of timer. So we go into here, we try to get the current track, and then after 5 seconds we try to do it again, and if something goes wrong, we just want to see it, right? So let's see, did I do anything wrong? Probably did. Spotify object has no attribute. What? Has no attribute side effect. Really? What did I call it? Oh, by the way, see, the loop is already working, right? It shows me the error message. So there's side effect, oh, here, this one. It has to be underscore side effect. All right. All right, that looks better. See, it every 5 seconds it prints out an empty string because the settings manager is disabled, right? Remember, it's disabled. So let's do Spotify enable disable. Click. All right. Oh, first of all, we see this a bunch of logging thing. That's because our client uses requests, and over here we're just gonna import logging because I don't want that. Import logging, and over here when we initialize it, the first thing that will happen is logging get logger requests set level logging warning. All right. And that's our print that we forgot over here. By the way, this other exception that we're seeing, it's from another plugin. Right, so as we can see, our world every 5 seconds. So first let's disable. Now it's disabled, and now it prints out an empty string. Okay, and again, let's enable it, and it shows our world. And let's let's do that like that. All right, so it says our world, our world. Let's just say next. Time bomb. We should see time bomb. So now I'm at the bottom of the console. So every 5 seconds, I see time bomb, and then wow, narcissistic cannibal. Features relax and kill the noise. Right. So as we can see, it works. As the last thing, while it's running, let's do something crazy. Let's remove the cache token. Boom, authorization success, because the browser remembers our login. So we're already logged in, right? So by the way, see, it already started to print it out. We already logged in, and then also in the Spotify. So if we go to Spotify, it's just spotify.com. That's so weird. Like, I don't know why it looks like this. Anyway, if I go to my account, why is this in German? I don't want to be on the German Spotify. Anyway, apps, English, right? See, this one name, and this one says revoke access. It just says in German. I have no idea why it's in German right now. Anyway, so because it remembers our app, we only lost the token. It didn't ask us to do this again, right? Because it remembers the app. However, if we revoke access, we will see it again. Right. So let's commit that, because I think we're already reached an hour. All right. So let's see. We added a bunch of stuff. Actually, let's add everything, because we added dependencies.json, right? So everything should be green now. Commit video 7. Wrote the HTTP client and got the whole thing to work. Yeah, that should be enough. Hit push. Right. And by the way, guys, I decided to rename the plugin, and I'm gonna do it off the camera, but I want to show you how to do it on GitHub. So the easiest way to do that is, and don't be afraid, we're going to remove the entire folder, right? boom, it's gone. Okay, so now we're just gonna go to, I usually have the browser here, so that's why I jumped to that workspace. So let's go to github.com/dev inside. By the way, we didn't have to delete it. Sign in. All right, so we just go here and we say edit. Oh no, that's just for the description, sorry. Where do we go? Settings? Right, rename. I decided to call it, how did I decide to call it? Spotify Web, because we're using the REST API, but it's technically the Web API. Remember the page is called Web API. Here, Web API. So I decided to call it Spotify Web, and then I was like, yeah, let's call it Spotify Web. And let's not use the hyphens. Let's just say Spotify Web. Does it look cool? Spotify Web. Yeah, SW Spotify Web. Rename. Right. So if you go to Dev Inside again, it's called Spotify Web now. And now we're just going to clone the repository using SSH. Just copy that. Go back to the folder. Git clone, just like that, cloning into Spotify Web. So it's called Spotify Web now. And if we open Sublime, it's not gonna know the folder anymore because it doesn't exist. So let's open Spotify Web, right? And what already should have happened, because we lost our cache token, right? I removed the folder. In our Firefox, there should be another tab, which is not there. Oh, that's a problem. In the gitignore file, gitignore, do we have lib here? Yeah, we have lib there. You remember this was the gitignore file that was generated by GitHub. So let's remove that and actually go to, where was it? That guy, and download it again. I told you not to be afraid when I remove the folder. This is live, right? So it's happening. Extract. Okay, cut it out and create. Oh no, not a file. Sorry. Create a folder. Lib. Put it in. All right. Restart Sublime. Right, the console is opening now. Everything is fine. Should be fine. It shows the song again, but the browser already opened the page and logged us in. So that's all good now. Yeah, but now we go, we'll say git status, and now we'll say git add everything. Git commit m added, removed lib from gitignore and added Spotify again. Right. Oh, and let's say NVIDIA 7. Right. Oops. Forgot the quote. There we go. Let's see if we have an empty space there actually. Commits at 16 now. No, it's all good. All right, and if we go here, we should now see the lib folder. It's there. Everything is there. So everything is all right. So basically, if we close it and we remove the folder again, right, and we clone it again. Let's close the browser. Close that. So now if we start, let's close everything. Now if we start it, it should it did not, like Sublime didn't even notice that the folder was not there. But because I closed the browser, it actually kicked me out. Again, we don't have to give permissions to the app. It just works. Oh, but right now I'm not playing anything, and it still shows then in California. Why does it show that? Am I playing it? No, I'm not playing it. Oh, now it shows me what I have over here. Get up. I had switched to that player somehow. Jungle Remix. All right, so this completes the 7th video, and you can go to GitHub again to see what changed. Actually, let's do it real quick. Dev inside you, body web, commits. Yes, Octotree, remember you. Right, so we did that and we did that. Okay. So we added the .cache token to the git ignore. We implemented this run main loop thing. We did some changes to the settings file. We added the dependencies at Json for the package control to download the request library that Spotify needs. We implemented the whole client. And we added client ID and client secret to the settings manager without the validation. I'm probably going to do it off the record as well, because you see all the changes here, as I said it many times. Yeah, and we added the run main loop and the side effect current track name or empty functions to the main object. All right, so I'm going to clean everything up off the record, and then in the next video we're actually going to display it in the title bar. And I'll see. Basically, I think this is the only thing that is left. We'll also, have a README file, and we will actually. So the next video might be the last one. I'm not sure. It might be the last one where we'll actually deploy it to the package control, where people will be able to install it automatically. All right. So I hope you liked this video. Tell me if you did. Subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and see you next time.